Hello and welcome to episode 417 of the No Sugarcoating Podcast. Holy moly, how are we already on episode 417? I'm your host, Amber Romaniuk. I'm so grateful and glad that you're here. I'm sending you love wherever you are in the world. And thank you for listening. This week is, it's going to be a good episode. This is a light the fire under your butt vibe kind of episode today. I haven't really ever talked about this. And last week I just got this download that it's like, this is what you need to talk about this week. Cause I went through this with my relationship with food and I'm like, this is so important to address. So this week's episode is all about, are you in denial with the state of your relationship with food? I went through this, the state of denial that kept the suffering going, kept me stuck. And I really want to talk about what that is today and how avoidance is keeping you stuck and signs you're in denial and how to shift. Because this is a huge block. This is the ego, and it is not helping you get where you want to go, my friends. So we're going to dive into that right away. Of course, the key announcements for today's episode can be found at amberapproved.ca/podcast/417. So a couple really exciting things. If you really resonate with today's episode and this is the fire that you needed to be lit under your butt to assist you in finally moving forward to book that 30-minute body freedom consultation to help you gain food and body freedom, to overcome the binge eating, emotional eating, binging and purging, to help you get to the root of your gut and hormone imbalances, the all or nothing mentality, the perfection, the body shame and hate, the body unworthiness, the weight battle, the cravings, whatever it is that's, really calling you to reach out. If this lights the fire, there's two really great ways for us to work together. One is the one-on-one support, of course. And I really encourage you into a 30-minute body freedom consultation so we can connect and talk about support. And the other is Body Freedom Unleashed, which is the most transformational 7-month group program to help you claim this food and body freedom in a group setting, which I love. And just a friendly reminder, because dates, the last day to receive the bonuses of 7 free months in the Body Freedom membership, as well as the Food Prep Magic bundle with my 3 Food Prep Magic programs, which values it over $1,000 with these 2 bonuses, expires on Monday, June 5th at midnight. So if you want to sign up and not only get the early bird pricing, which is a savings of $889 USD, but you also want to get those 2 bonuses, you have until Monday, June 5th. Okay. And then you have until Sunday, June 11th to secure the early bird savings of $889 USD before the price goes up. So right now it's $1333 USD, or 2 payments of $667 USD, or monthly payment plan $191 USD a month for 7 months. And then it's going to go back up to the regular price of $2,222 USD. Now you can also do a VIP for Body Freedom Unleashed, which means a 1-hour session with me, a hormone test, you and I together going through your results, and you receiving the guidance and support to help you deepen this journey and gain more clarity and answers, especially when it comes to your hormone health and other things that you desire to also connect with me on in a one-on-one setting outside of the group. So the VIP is also available, and on early bird, it's $19.99 USD. So just to give you a bit more insight, all the details for the program are available on the sales page. So if you go to amberapproved.ca/podcast/417, or you click the link below in the description, you can go and read through the page. You can read through testimonials, watch videos, and get a taste of what this entire program is about. But essentially, it is the next level of support that I would suggest, aside from one-on-one, that's going to help you claim this food and body freedom. So I'm really excited to welcome you in. And if you want to take advantage of those 2 amazing bonuses to help you on your way, and you want to do so by the 5th, make sure you come forth. And I'm so excited to welcome you and have you be in the program. So let's dive in. Are you in denial with your relationship with food? And you might be like, no, I'm not. It's not that big of a deal. The emotional eating or the binge eating or the binging and purging isn't having really an impact. It's really not that bad. And if we're in that kind of mentality, and I'm gonna like break down a bunch of different signs that you're in denial with your relationship with food, just to help you gain clarity if you're not sure. Or maybe you're in the denial and this is going to help you see it and get it and understand that this is actually not having the most empowering impact on you, because suffering and sabotaging with food does not help us improve our quality of life, our health, our mindset, or anything. It just causes a lot of suffering that is unnecessary, and it costs a lot of money too. to stay in these habits. So we're going to dive into some key signs that you're in denial with your relationship with food. But I want to just share a little bit about where this came from, because I definitely went through quite a period of denial with my relationship with food when I was deep in it. And I think, because people always say, well, what made you change? What made you want to start dealing with it? And it was a lot of suffering and realizing how significant the suffering was, and really getting real and honest with myself that the binge eating, the food addiction that I have, the emotional eating that I'm doing is having a significant impact on every aspect of me, my being, my life, my bank account, my relationships, or lack thereof, especially, romantically, my job, my quality of relationships, my health, my digestion, my hormones. Is doing a number on everything. Like, I am suffering significantly because of this. But because my ego, it's the ego that convinces you it's not that big of a deal. It's the ego that convinces you that it's, it's manageable, that will keep us stuck. And I just didn't know about the ego at the time. So I wasn't sure how to navigate that. But because I'm always talking about it in the podcast and you all are always hearing about it, you get to catch this sooner, right? So essentially for me, I just remember binging, emotionally eating, right? And then going in trying to course correct with like exercise and restriction and diets and all those things. And I just remember being like, man, like maybe I am really struggling with this. Maybe this is a serious issue. And then my ego would come in and be like, it's not a big deal. Most people emotionally eat. Most people use food. Like, even when you hang out with your friends, you all do it together. And when you do it with other people, it doesn't count. And like, my ego would be like, it's really not a big deal. And what would you do if you didn't have food? If you didn't have food as a coping mechanism, like, who would you be? What would you do? Food's your best friend. It's your crutch. Like, if you don't have food, you have nothing. And I think that this is very important for me to share, because I've had so many conversations with clients, with other women and men who have reached out who say the same. They're like, I don't know who I'm going to be if I stop revolving my world and life and focus around food, weight, my body, numbers. You're just like, I've just spent so much time and energy and money and focus on these things. Like, I don't know what my life is going to look like. And that is scary, intimidating, uncomfortable. And because a lot of us don't want to ever get uncomfortable, then what we do is, instead of actually starting to address it and deal with it, we instead make up stories of and go into this denial of, it's not a big deal. It's not really having an impact. Food's my friend. It makes me feel good when I'm sad. It's a pick me up. It'll never judge me or call me names. It'll never put me down. It's always there for me. I get to pick the food. It always tastes good. It makes me feel good. Like, these are the dialogues that we start to get into that then keep us stuck in these cycles and these looping behaviors and these ruts. And as long as we let that denial and this convincing and justifying why it's not a big deal and why it's okay to keep struggling with it is okay, like, as long as we keep justifying that, the suffering continues and often gets worse. My digestion got worse. My brain fog and fatigue got worse. My hormones got worse, right? I was more inflamed. I kept gaining more weight. My self-worth was at an all-time low. I kept losing more faith that I could ever change. And I became even more hopeless that, like, no diet worked. I had no willpower. I sucked at life, and I sucked at trying to deal with this because I couldn't have willpower and just like eat mindful amounts of, junk food and sugar and stuff. Like, it hits on your own confidence and your own self-worth more when you keep failing at every diet, when you lose control with food again, because you think there's something wrong with you. When it's not that there's something wrong with you, it's that emotional eating, binging and purging is very complex, very multifaceted. We often are struggling with a multitude of triggers. You're dealing with the ego mindset, which is so freaking sneaky and so overpowering. You're dealing with wiring in your brain. You're dealing with, dopamine highs, right? Mood stuff. You're dealing with cravings, blood sugar, hormone, gut, and the world. Like, there is so much here that you have to deal with and understand the significance of any kind of self-sabotaging relationship with food. Because it's not just as simple as don't go to the store and drive the food and just have willpower. It's not that simple. It's complex, but like I always talk about, triggers are trying to teach you, your body's trying to teach you. And as we are willing and open our minds to go on this journey, we learn so much about us, what's out of whack, what's out of alignment, where we're not in our power. And I think that's so incredible. Ooh, I hope you can hear the birds chirping. I have the window open, and we have, just quick side note, I have to tell you, okay? Quick side note. I should have mentioned this in the beginning. We have this beautiful green space in our backyard, and we have a bird feeder, and we have had red-winged blackbirds, which just make the most beautiful chirp. We have bunnies. Of course, we named them Howard and Minnie. And we have had my favorite, the ducks, the mallard and the hen. The mallard has like the green feathers on the top of his head, and their names are Dawn and Dar. And they've been coming for breakfast and dinner and eating the seed off the ground and the grass and bugs and stuff. And I love them. They're so cute. We name all the birds and the ducks and the bunnies. Yeah. And the plants and the flowers too. It's just fun, right? Anyways, it's been so nice to have them. And that's just hearing the birds chirping is reminding me that we have all these amazing birds and animals in our backyard, and it's awesome. Anyways, back to what I was talking about. When we are in this space, right, where we have just been actually so conditioned by the diet industry, the weight loss industry, that it's about willpower and it's about trying harder on your diet, which is such BS, is such a falsehood. It doesn't have anything to do with either of those things, but that's what they sell you to try and keep you as lifetime customers, right? They're trying to convince you, oh yeah, if you just try a little harder, try this, do this, it's going to work. And it's got nothing to do with any of that, like you always hear me talking about. So what's really important for us to understand is that we have got actually so much working against us that is easily amplifying this repeating of the cycle of using food as a coping, numbing mechanism to shove down our emotions, to avoid, to distract, to chase this dopamine high. That how are you possibly supposed to know all of this yourself without having any education, any knowledge, any experience, any awareness, not listening to any information about it? And then how are you supposed to change it? And like, I'm not saying that in a way because I don't have faith in you. I have faith in everyone that listens to this podcast and follows me and comes to work with me, that you can all claim food and body freedom. In fact, I encourage that you can, because I know you can. If I can, you can. It's that this is complex. Like, I don't know how to go and code a website. That's why I invest in hiring an expert in that field that will do a great job at coding my website. I don't, right? Like, I don't know how to clean my own teeth in the sense of like, if I had a root canal, which I will never get one again. Side note, I'm going to have a holistic dentist on the show. We're going to talk about the detriments of root canals and how horrible they are and how they can like blow up again and cause more issues. But if I have an abscessed tooth, I'm not going to try and deal with myself. I'm going to my dentist. They're the expert. I'm going to go pay them to deal with it because that's not my expertise, right? This is why I love the world of like, that there's not just one person on this planet, because we're all here to assist each other. And this is why I'm always encouraging, like, whatever path you want to take, but honestly, investing in your health and investing in healing your relationship with food and this deep level of support to help you deal with your ego, to deal with the brain patterning, to deal with the negative self-talk, the patterns that are keeping you stuck in self-sabotage, to help you identify your specific set of binge and emotional eating triggers, right? To help you identify the roots of your gut and hormone issues, your weight loss blocks, et cetera, your low self-worth, people pleasing, whatever it is. It is priceless to receive the support of someone or a group of people who can help you on this journey. Now you're going to pick the path that feels best for you. I'm just lighting the fires under the butts and, right, like giving you, planting seeds. If it's like you listen to me and you feel called, you want to come to me, amazing. Welcome. I welcome you with open arms, and I'm excited to connect and go on the journey with you. If it's someone else, amazing. I just want you to pick the path that's going to help you gain the freedom you seek and deserve to have, so you can improve your quality of life, your health, and be happy and free with food in your body, because it's the best thing ever, right? But it's so important that we start to become honest with ourselves if we're in denial. Okay, so let's talk more about this. So denial is a defensive mechanism, in fact. in a big sense, a lot of it does prevent us from accepting our reality or accepting something that we're doing or feeling that actually doesn't serve us. Okay. And I'm not going to say it's always bad, because we're human and we're going to like feel things. And I went through a lot of it too. Right. And sometimes, depending on how intensive something is that's going on for us, it can actually, sometimes a bit of denial temporarily. I think it's so important we don't stay in denial, that we address things that are going on and don't keep hanging on, because it inflicts a lot of suffering on ourselves and others. But some things, if we were to like take them all in at once and try to work on all of it at once, could cause trauma or anxiety, like especially if you're healing through like being abused or assaulted or something like really traumatic. Like there's layers and levels, and you want to process at a gentle pace so your nervous system can keep up. But with relationship with food, it's usually not quite that intensive. But I find it's something, in certain circumstances with really intensive experiences that you may have for a little while, and it helps you process at a rate that won't throw you into a massive stress response. But in this case, it's so important that we actually get honest with ourselves and recognize when we're denying that our relationship with food is not having a negative impact, or it's really not that bad. Because what denial does in these instances, and I want you to really take this in, so I'll probably say it a couple times, okay? The problem with denial with your relationship with food, your body image struggles, your unworthiness, it prevents you from living your life fully. The denial prevents you from addressing the self-sabotage with food, the ego, the negative self-talk, etc., which becomes an issue, becomes a problem, becomes something that is significantly impacting your health, your mood, your frequency, your quality of life, and your finances, your relationships, all kinds of things. Denial prevents you from fully living your life, from addressing these sabotaging behaviors. Denial prevents you from healing them. And denial prevents you from moving forward into this food and body freedom, confidence, peace of mind. The peace of mind that you create when you heal your relationship with food, and you're not thinking about food all day, fearing it, obsessing it, thinking about how you're going to control it, what you're going to binge on later, what you need to eat to lose weight. Like it is, that in itself is so freeing, to not be so in your head, is fixating over all of that, let alone all the other benefits. And the first step on any healing path is just being honest and acknowledging and accepting that this is going on for you. Because staying in denial prevents you from taking the first steps to food and body freedom. I know some of you listening to this podcast have gone to the consultation page, and you have read through, and you've maybe read through and started to put your name in, or you filled half of it or the whole thing out. And then you hit the X button on your web browser, because the ego kicks in and goes, it's not that big of a deal. You're not ready. It's not the right time. Maybe you just need to try to do better on the next diet. Maybe you just need to, try and eat clean for a few weeks, and that'll just do the trick. But is it really doing the trick? Maybe you've drafted up the email and it's sitting in your inbox, and you keep meaning to hit send, but then the denial kicks in and then you don't. And instead of moving forward to get support and to help you heal, your ego is preventing you from acknowledging and taking steps to claim this food and body freedom, to fully move forward with living your life that you love in an even more incredible way. The denial is preventing you from healing and moving forward. That is significant. I cannot say that enough, right? We don't want to do that. We do not want to do that. So, ooh, bless me. So we don't want to do that. Okay. We want to acknowledge the denial. We must take ownership at some point. If we want to heal, if we want to really gain food and body freedom, it's our responsibility to take ownership. Now, we can get support and accountability and guidance to help us along the way, but it's up to you to go, you know what? maybe it's time for me to really realize, like, if I've been struggling with this for years and decades and not a lot is changing, or the person I've been seeing for 5 years and nothing is different, maybe it's time to try something different, or maybe it's time to finally invest in getting support. Okay. So I get it. When we're in denial, like, we don't want to face our stuff. We don't necessarily want to face our body image insecurities, or we don't want to feel our emotions, or we don't want to start, dealing with people pleasing and getting out of our comfort zone and starting to learn how to set boundaries and say no or stand up for ourselves, because we're terrified. We don't want to upset anybody. We don't want to, let anyone down. When you're relying on other people for validation because you don't feel good enough, like, it can seem really out of your comfort zone. But this is the thing, is when you learn how to take your power back and heal, guess what? You get to validate yourself. You feel so much better, not people pleasing, setting healthy boundaries. Like, I have a client and we were in her session and she's like, it feels so good not to people please. She's like, I do not miss it at all. She's like, I'm so glad that we worked on this together. She's like, I was so hesitant in the beginning for fear of what others would think, but she's like, I am so glad. She's like, I feel so free, not people pleasing anymore. I'm like, exactly. Right. So it makes a big difference when we really work through these pieces that the ego wants us to avoid, because they're not the quick fix pieces. You can't go to the store and buy a bottle of overcoming people pleasing. It's something you've got to want to work on picking away at yourself. And of course, support helps with that. But let's talk about some common signs that you're in denial, shall we? Because these may be resonant for you. And if you have these, don't be hard on yourself, but maybe consider, wow, this is my ego. This is why I'm a big reason I'm stuck. And now that I'm aware, I actually want to move forward and get some help. Okay. So the first sign that you may be in denial with your relationship with food, and you could use this for any area of your life. It doesn't just have to be self-sabotage with food, but we're specifically doing that here, right? You avoid engaging with or thinking about the self-sabotage. And instead you just zone out more with more TV, more overbooking your schedule, more food, mindlessly scrolling on social media, instead of being willing to think about, explore your triggers, understand where all of this is coming from. So you avoid thinking about it or engaging with it, journaling about it, whatever it is. Okay. The next sign you're in denial with your relationship with food is that you actually blame other people or circumstances for you giving into the self-sabotage with food, right? So it's like, I used to do this when I had my crappy, well, delete crappy, but when I worked at Lululemon, it just felt like a really not so fun retail job. I don't know. I just never had the greatest bosses. Anyways, I learned a lot there. But anyway, so I sprained my ankle, and obviously I had to stand all day, 8 hours, right? Like selling Luon to people. And I couldn't walk very fast across the floor. And my manager wrote me up. She's like, you're not walking fast enough. And I'm like, I sprained my ankle. And she knew, but she wrote me up for it. And it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, I can't walk any faster. And at the time, I wasn't willing to stand up for myself because I didn't want to get in trouble or lose my job. Like, so stupid, that we hold back for fear of our paycheck getting threatened when something isn't right. Anyways, and so that happened. It triggered me. I left this, after my shift, went and got all my binge food, went home, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, blame this person. I'm like, it's this person's fault that I'm binge eating right now. It's this person's fault because they made me upset and they made me sad and they made me angry, right? It's this person's fault, right? It's this, situation right now that's like fueling me to binge. Like, maybe if you're blaming like COVID, or you're blaming certain like political situations, or you're blaming certain things you see on the news is the reason you're emotionally eating. You're blaming certain people, you're blaming your job, right? When we are in denial, we lack ownership and responsibility, and we don't want to own that, like, I'm doing this. Yes, maybe this person or circumstance was part of what triggered me, but I'm choosing to hurt myself with food. I'm choosing to use it as a coping mechanism. No one's shoving the food down your throat. You are doing it. You are eating yourself, right? You're eating the food yourself. So it's so important for us to start to go, like, this is on me. And this is about me learning healthy ways to cope. So even if your spouse triggers you, or work triggers you, or the world is triggering you, you have healthy ways to cope. I'm so grateful for all the tools I've had over the last few weeks with all the intense energy that's been going on in my province, because otherwise I'd be a mess and I'd be binge eating left, right, and center. I'm so grateful for the healing I've done because now I have the tools and it's been a lot easier to navigate, right? So the next one, you continue self-sabotage even though it has negative consequences and costs. You always hear me talking about what are the costs of you continuing to be in this behavior, right? So it's like, I don't need to get help for, I don't need to get help for this. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But then your digestion, you're getting more bloated, more inflamed, right? Your headaches are getting worse. Your skin breakouts are getting worse. You're gaining more weight. Your blood pressure is getting worse. Your blood sugars are going more out of whack. It's maybe making existing diagnoses or symptoms worse, right? But this is the thing, because I can so relate to this, because when I was struggling with binging and purging and emotional eating, like, I didn't want to hurt myself. I was not eating because I'm like, I want to hurt myself. But when it came down to it and the desire to go to food came up and I thought about, I'm hurting myself doing this. I'm making my digestion worse. I'm gaining more weight. It's horrible for me. It didn't matter in the moment, because what mattered more in the moment was the numbing and receiving the dopamine high, that pleasure, that euphoric few minutes that I would feel when I ate the food. That was more important than my health and well-being, because I was addicted. And when you have an addiction, when you have a very strong attachment to using food as a coping mechanism, in the moment when you are like, right before you start eating, you don't consider your health. And if you do, you're like, whatever, it's just one more time. And you justify this is just one more time. Tomorrow I'll try better. I'll try harder. Right. And the ego convinces us that one more time won't matter. But then when one more time doesn't matter for another week, another month, another year, another decade, it has a big impact on every aspect of you and your health and well-being in your life. But there's so many costs and consequences of continuing in this behavior. But we, unfortunately, have learned to have too big of a tolerance for suffering. And then we just stay more in the suffering. And it's sad that we are in this circumstance where we are so accepting and tolerant to hurting ourselves and to suffering. And I don't want that for you. I want you to heal this. I want you to overcome it. I want you to stop tolerating, the costs and the consequences of continuing to sabotage with food, right? The next sign you're in denial is you justify your behavior or circumstance, right? I just am not going to enjoy my day as much if I can't eat this food right now. The show isn't going to be as enjoyable to watch if I can't eat my bag of chips or my cookies or whatever it is. I can't have fun at this, event, wedding, restaurant, like whatever it is, if I can't have this food, similar to drinking, right? It's Christmas. It doesn't count. I can eat whatever I want. Well, they're doing it. They're doing it too, right? So a trigger for me, one of my last triggers to deal with was, and it was my friend's fault. They didn't know, but I had a group of friends that I would hang out with. And often what we would do is we would go to the store, buy a bunch of junk food, or go to the gas station, buy a bunch of junk food and pop on a movie. And we would just all sit there mindlessly eating and gorging on all this food. And then what I started to realize is I would go and do that. And then I'd be in the all or nothing effort mentality, and it would trigger me to go deep into a binge. And I would just start to like move forward and have a few days or weeks without binging. And then we'd hang it out again and it would throw me way off. So the justification was like, well, I'm doing it with other people, so it doesn't count. It still counts. It's just that everyone's enabling everyone. It still counts, but we justify that it's okay in those circumstances. And that is a level of the denial. When it's not okay, like I'm all for going and hanging out with people and enjoying some good food and like being mindful, but there's a line. And once we cross that line and we're overeating and then we're so full, we don't feel good. And then we're like, well, F it, I already ate that. Who cares now? It doesn't matter. I might as well eat whatever I want. That's what we want to deal with. That is not healthy. Another sign that we are in denial with our relationship with food is that you continue to say, well, you know what? It's not a big deal right now. I'll next month I'll address it, or next year I'll address it, or it's just not the right time right now. And now I just want to acknowledge that if it's finances for you that are holding you back, right? And you're like, I really want help, but maybe right now I don't have the money and I want to save. Okay, well, maybe financially there is a reality and an actual truth to that. However, you can listen to free podcasts. You can invest in like $20 to $70 master classes and start with smaller things first, even, and or save, right? But there's all kinds of free resources that you can access that give you all kinds of things you could be trying. But if you know that you could invest in this help and you know it's what you need, but your ego continues to say, I'll just address in the future, it's not the right time. Once I'm here and the circumstances are different, then I'll do it. Once this changes, then I'll do it. Once I'm, free of this, then I'll do it. Like life's never going to be perfect. And the universe is never going to have like this perfect opening where it's like yells at you and puts a sign in the sky that's like, this is the right time. Like, I mean, maybe it will, but to me, it's like, you get to decide that if you're done fighting with this, that now is your time and you will figure out the path that feels best for you. Right. But if you keep going, it's not a big deal. I'll address it like in a little while. That is denial. Okay. Another sign you're in denial is that you don't want to open up and talk to anyone about it. Now I get it. There may be certain people that you just know there's no point in me talking to them about this. They're not going to get it. They're not going to understand. Totally. You're not going to tell everyone about it. But if you're even resisting reaching out to me, right, because you don't want to talk about it, you feel shame and embarrassment, I really encourage you to let that go because there's nothing to be ashamed about. Stop being so hard on yourself. This is deep rooted and multi-layered. And it feels so good to actually open up and talk about it for the first time. I have so many women and men that reach out and they're like, wow, this is the first time I'm actually sharing this. And it feels so good to finally share, right? It's like a huge weight lifts off their shoulders. So this is a safe space. This is a no judgment space. You will be met with love and respect if you choose to come forth and share this here. I don't want you to think you can't open up because it does feel heavy, almost like a burden when we feel we have to just go along and keep it to ourselves. Okay. Maybe others are like seeing you in this and kind of know what's going on and they're concerned and they want you to get help, but you ignore it. You ignore that their concern of you, their desire to want to assist you in getting support, and you shut it all down, right? That's another sign. And often another sign that we're in denial with our relationship with food is that we're using food to suppress our pain, our hurt, our wounds, right? If we're doing that, we're hurting ourselves. And then maybe what you notice is you start binging more, and then you're scrolling more and you're watching more TV. Maybe you start drinking more. Maybe you're reaching out to exes, right? And they're bad for you, but because you want the attention, right? Like the more we go into self-sabotage, the lower our frequency, the more low vibration behaviors we engage in. Spending more money, mindless spending, mindless eating, mindless drinking, mindless interactions with others. Low vibration behavior, right? Or maybe you withdraw from others. Like I withdrew. It got to the point where I was very much just spending time with myself because I didn't want anyone to notice I gained weight. I wanted to binge and I didn't want anyone to see because it was so much food. I didn't feel good. So I didn't really want to hang out with people. And then I was convinced that like the best thing I could do is just hang out with myself. Right. And then of course, this one is kind of sad because I feel like in a way they're trying to normalize emotional eating. Like look at all these competitive eating channels where they binge on so much food. It's not good. And then you have all these people that are going, the commercials, like just eat the pint of ice cream, just have the whole pizza. And it's like binge eating and emotional eating should never be normalized. It is not a healthy behavior. We don't want to encourage self-sabotage with food, but we'll justify because it's like, well, they do it in the movies all the time. Well, my friends are all doing it. Well, I don't have a problem. Like these people are eating more than me. Like there's all this like comparing it to others to justify that it's not a big deal. Or these commercials are talking about it, these movies promote it, etc. Right. And it's like, no, like this is not something that we want to compare or think is normal. Right. So I think it's so important that we get really honest with ourselves. And these are some, there's like more, but I mean, I could spend like hours just like breaking down signs you're in denial, but these are some that came on. So which ones came up for you? I'm curious to hear. Feel free to DM me on Instagram or email me if you want to share, or if you're watching on YouTube, just comment below. I'm curious to hear what comes up for you. Okay. But when we're in the states of justification of like, it's not a big deal, food is my friend, right? You're in this avoidance of actually addressing what's going on, and it keeps you stuck. Because what the ego wants to do is convince you it's not a big deal. It's a great habit because it makes you feel good, right? It tastes good. You get this escape. You get these few minutes where just nothing matters, right? Your ego wants to convince you it's going to be too uncomfortable. It's going to be too scary. What if it doesn't work? What if you fail? What if it doesn't work? Getting the help. So like, what's the point? You might as well just keep in it, right? Oh man, like if you start feeling your feelings, that could be really scary. And actually it's not. It's actually very freeing. Oh, well, if you need to deal with your people pleasing, and that's one of the ways you overcome emotional eating, like you're going to upset others. Honestly, 9 times out of 10, you don't upset anyone. The only person you're upsetting and letting down is yourself, because every time you people please and you say yes to someone else and no to yourself, when you really wanted to say no, you hold that resentment against yourself. Mic drop, right? You hold the resentment against yourself. You have to deal with yourself and the fact that you've let yourself down again. And that is hard to deal with. And then we'll binge because we don't want to feel that and deal with that. But the avoidance, the I'll do it later, it's not that big of a deal, I don't want to let anyone down, it's too uncomfortable to change. Who will I be without food? I don't know how I'm going to be without food, so there's no point in changing. That seems too daunting to think about that. So all of this, we just go, oh my gosh, like, no, I'm just going to stay the same. I'm too busy. My schedule's too busy. I don't have time to deal with this, right? Like, I don't want to change. It's fine. But this avoidance keeps you stuck. It really keeps you stuck, right? So I think that's why it's so important that we really, get honest with ourselves, I guess you could say, right? Or maybe you're in the mindset where you're like, I'm doing everything right. I'm eating right. I'm exercising, right? But what you're not considering is a self-sabotage. You're like, I'm doing everything right. I'm eating clean and I'm exercising, yet you don't even want to look at yourself in the mirror. Like, if you're in that state where you're like, I love myself, but then you're literally like punishing yourself with binge eating or binging and purging or emotional eating, you don't love yourself. I mean it with love, but the loving, honest truth is that if you're hurting your body with food, if you're overbooked, if you're relying on people pleasing, if you're criticizing your body and you're punishing her with binging or restriction or exercise, you don't love yourself. Maybe you feel happy with like the way you show up in your job or in your relationships, but the relationship you have with you, that's not self-love. And I have to be honest, because I want you to recognize the denial that we can get in with, I love myself. No. Self-love means you don't hurt yourself with food. You're willing to take ownership for your stuff. You're willing to look at what's going on. You're willing to heal it. You're willing to deal with the people pleasing. You're willing to get uncomfortable, right? Not all at once, like it's done in layers, but you want to learn healthy ways to cope. You don't want to punish yourself with food. You want to learn how to build your worth. You want to learn what power feels like. You want to learn how to, take your power back from your ego. Very different, right? So when we're in this space, it's so important that we start to be honest with these signs that we're in denial. So if you're like, holy moly, I now realize I'm in denial of my relationship with food, no wonder I'm stuck, or wow, I know I've been stuck. Thank you for calling me out. Well, how do we shift it? Well, number one is acknowledgement, acceptance. Just be real with yourself. It'll probably feel good to just be honest. You're not bad or wrong for acknowledging and admitting what's going on, right? And be willing. I mean, you can definitely take a go at it on your own. I know for some of you, that's your path. It was my path. But for a lot of you, if you've been struggling for years or decades, having support and accountability is the game changer and the missing piece of the puzzle that helps you get to that full food and body freedom, right? Because when you don't have emotional support and accountability, you're literally training yourself to think that you are this way and that this kind of behavior and thought process and feeling unworthy and hurting yourself with food and being overbooked is normal, and that you're stuck and that nothing will ever work. And, when we do this and you feel stuck, you're just in this vicious cycle of continuing to embody your past self, not realizing that there's healing and breakthroughs and freedom to step into this new identity of this new you that is in a healthy relationship with food and your body. You don't have to stay in this past self, these behaviors that just keep repeating, the thoughts, the beliefs, the suffering, right? But when we don't have support and accountability, you continue to revert back to your old habits. And sometimes the habits get worse. And then you try the diet and maybe you lose a bit, but then the boomerang happens and you gain more weight. Your bloating gets way worse. Your cravings get worse. Your binges get twice as big. But then you continue to go back to the app, the calorie counting, the meal plan, but there's no quick fix that's going to resolve this for you. There is not. And I want to tell you out of honesty, because I want you to honestly save your money and stop wasting it on all the diets and quick fixes and invest it on something that's going to work and help you gain freedom, or save it. One of the two. Guidance and support is so valuable and important because it's this is multi-layered. You're always hearing me saying this. These behaviors and thoughts and beliefs are so complex. And this kind of support, especially what I offer, is so specific and unique to you, and it's so intricate, right? You get support, you get tools, you get guidance, accountability, right? We're checking in regularly. You're so held, right? And it's not just about, why you're using food or, why this is your coping mechanism, but like, where did it all come from? How is it that up until this point, all of these experiences and circumstances have led you to the point where you're in self-sabotage with food, right? What are the thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors? What are your triggers? It's about building a level of awareness you probably, right at this point, don't even know is possible. And that we all have different, kind of things that we need. And so we try different things to see what works best for you and healing your relationship with food, balancing your hormones, overcoming people pleasing, whatever it is, right? And the biggest part about this is yeah, you can quit alcohol. You just stop drinking, you stop going to bars, etc. You keep it out of your house, but you can't quit food. So it's just not as cut and dry as quitting eating. Right. And I know it's deeper with alcohol too. I've had quite a few clients who've quit alcohol and they go to food because sugar and molecule are only one molecule different, or sugar and alcohol rather. And if we just take one behavior to another and we don't look at the roots, well, we'll just keep transmuting into a different kind of self-sabotaging behavior. Right. I get you have the stress and it's not going to stop until you get better at managing it or you become, more aware. Right. And when you get better at managing your stressors and your triggers, freedom happens, peace of mind happens. You feel unstoppable no matter what comes in life, rather than all of these self-sabotaging behaviors to temporarily comfort yourself in air quotes because it doesn't really work. Right. People, want control and they think having control with food is some kind of safe zone when we're really out of control with food on a regular basis. And then that fuels all these other issues and imbalances. And the more the world ramps up, I feel like the more we want to grasp at control with things like food. So becoming more resilient with ourselves, taking our power back, learning healthy ways to cope, learning how to navigate through our triggers, that's really the answer, right? I'm not here to sugarcoat it. It's not going to just go away. I'm here to tell you that you can heal. I want you to heal. I want you to claim food and body freedom, and support can be one of the most powerful steps. So what's holding you back? Was it the denial? Is it the denial? Because I know when a client is ready to be successful, like you are stepping up. You're ready to up level. And there is an emotional, energetic, physical, and spiritual maturity and expansion that comes and builds and grows. And I'm here to hold you and lovingly support you and challenge you to step up and up level because that's what you deserve. Right? So you always hear me ask this, but it's how would it feel for you if you had the tools to navigate through, if you had the support and the accountability, someone to pick you up and dust you off when you fall, someone to walk with you every step of the way, right? I've had clients be situations that they're dealing with now and working through. They're I never would have been able to deal with this or face this if I wouldn't have started working with you and start working on healing my relationship with food. This would have been so much harder to deal with before. The miracles are massive. You can go to amberapproved.ca. You can watch testimonial videos, success stories, or you can read through. There's dozens of them. And I say that just to let you know that you can go and read. You can check it out. You get to write your own success story, though. The first step, though, acknowledge that there's something going on and that is having a significant impact on your life and that you're tired of that. And then you get to decide what you want to do from there. And I'm welcoming you with open arms. And I believe in you. And I know that you can shift this and heal this. And this is where there's one-on-one support if you feel more called to that. And there's also Body Freedom Unleashed, which the Body Freedom membership and Food Prep Magic bonuses are available until Monday, June 5th at midnight. And the early bird savings is available until Sunday, June 11th for $889 USD for the Body Freedom Unleashed group program, one-on-one. Book a Body Freedom call if you're not sure what you want to do. We can go over questions and everything. You can also email me, info@amberapproved.ca. But if you go to amberapproved.ca, schedule a consultation. To me, that's a great way for us to connect to talk about all of this. And then we can decide what feels best for you. But I leave it in your court. The ball is in your court. Are you in denial? Are you now aware? And now that you're aware, you can actually shift and change and do something about it. It's up to you. But stop staying stuck. Stop tolerating this. I really encourage you to stop tolerating this. You deserve so much more. You are powerful. You are incredible. You are amazing. You're so full of potential. Don't let this hold you back from accessing that and knowing that deeply within you, knowing that and accessing that yourself. I used to feel so insecure and so not good enough and like a little speck of dust on this planet. And healing has helped me see my value, my worth, that I matter, that I have so much to offer to this planet, and I make a difference. And I don't say that from any place of like arrogance or anything. It's like, it's a mirror. So you matter. You are of value. You have a lot to offer to this planet. You have gifts. You have so much love and light inside of you to offer to this planet. Most importantly, to yourself first. You have so much magic within you to access knowledge, awareness, gifts. But often when we're staying stuck in these behaviors, we will not believe any of that is true. We will not feel connected to that. And that's not like your full human potential. I really want you to be in your full human potential for you, and then it positively impacts everyone else. So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. The show notes can be found at amberapproved.ca/podcast/417. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, all the details for today's show will be in the description below. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, share this with someone that you think is going to resonate with it. And of course, don't hesitate to reach out if you're wanting to explore support. You can also go to amberapproved.ca, book your consultation, learn more about Body Freedom Unleashed, as well as take the free emotional eating quiz if you wonder if you are struggling. And as I always say, there's no better time than the present to take action on your health, your healing, gaining this food and body freedom. So take action now. I hope you have the most amazing day, the most amazing week. I'm sending you so much love. You matter. You are important. You are of value. You have so much to offer this planet. I'm here to remind you of that because it's true. Sending you so much love. And I can't wait to share an entire new episode with all of you beautiful souls next Sunday. Take care.